What's going on, people?
Hey. Back at it again. Number 2.
Hey. Man. Hey, this is I'm gonna be hosting today. Looks like I'm freezing up a bit.
A little laggy.
Yeah. But you know how it is, man.
Yeah.
In the words of Kevin Simon, shout out to the FBI, one love to the CIA. And I'm not talking about creative, intelligent, assertive women and whatever, some black intelligent men. I'm talking about the real FBI and the CIA.
Yeah.
But I'm the host today, so you know this would happen. This would happen. But
you've been steady all for the last few shows.
Man. I mean,
you've been steady for the last.
What do you think? What do y'all think? So today we're just gonna have a discussion. It's our 23rd episode.
23rd, man.
Sprung up on us. Sprung up on us sooner than we expected. And today we're just going to talk about, reparations in Michigan, really. And so I introduce myself as Stephen, your host. You know how I am with my internet. And I'm going to bring it to Darvell. And I guess Gerard do Gerard because of where my camera's set up. I'm going to do Gerard.
Oh, okay. What's up?
Go ahead.
Hey, it's your boy, Gerard Ibn Lamont, Adolph J. Rocky, you know what I'm saying? Hey, it's your resident freaking political analyst here, man. We about to bring you all some good news and critiques and updates of what's going on. Very important election season. I don't think people really aware of that, man. We got some elections happening this year. So yeah, that's what I got for you guys.
Well, Ernest is on mute, so I'll go ahead and take my turn. I'm Darvell. I'm your live producer and also the guy sitting in the corner with all the too much to say and the word vomit. So, hey, I'm sitting outside of Detroit, just outside city limits, and we're going to get into it today.
Yep. What's going on, everybody? This Ernest out here in Lansing. Definitely going to be, like I said, having a good dialogue with you guys. We're going to touch on AB 3121 a little bit. Got some good clips for you guys. We can definitely engage in that dialogue. But, hey, welcome to the show, man.
And, again, I'm the host today. It's me, Stedman. Looks like my connection is doing a little better. Let's hope it lasts. You're going to see me with my towel because I'm hot. I get hot easy. So if you see me wiping from time to time, just like in church, know the conversation is good and the spirit is moving in this place. And we want reparations. You heard me. So let's get into the local beat. We'll get into the local beat. And what we got up for today, that's Gerard. What's the local beat for us today?
This guy on mute too.
Oh, they got me on my bad. I said, let me go ahead and share my screen real quick. So we're having elections. We have an important primary coming up. August 3rd. Let me see. That'll be what? That's not. I think about 14 days from now. Actually, it's 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks from today, right? Because usually most elections are held on Tuesday. So 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
Will be the primary, and it's very crucial that you get out there and you vote and you get involved, because actually these local elections are where we have the most control and ability to actually make democratic changes that we want to see at the local level. And so we're going to go ahead and talk about that. So give me a few seconds to share my screen. My tabs. We're going to talk about it. So first, we're going to get on the we'll go to Ballotpedia, because it kind of get as a good resource to let us know what we got going on. All right. So we have a mayoral election this year, as well as city council, as well as police commissioners as well. But I'm not going to go down that far with the police commissioners, but that's very important as well, especially, in this day and age with police violence and so on and so forth. But I'm going to keep the scope down just to mayoral. So what we have here the mayoral elections here. So yeah, this is a good resource here. Ballotpedia covers a lot of information in regards to federal, state, and local elections. So so the primary will occur on August 3rd, 2021, with the general election occurring on November 2nd, 2021. Okay. So what ends up happening in the primary, for those who may or may not be aware, so these fielded candidates, right? They were able to get the correct signatures or the right amount of signatures in order to get on the ballot. They had to do that, I believe, April 20th of this year, and in order to run for office. Okay, so you have the incumbent, me and Mike Duggan, nonpartisan. I don't know if this is correct or not, but hey, okay, now okay. So I guess they're saying that at this local level they can't say whether they're a D or the R. That's funny if this is correct.
That's new.
That's news to me that this type of elections are nonpartisan elections. So even dealing with that, so when local elections, for instance, judges, those certain positions, you have to run nonpartisan. You can't run a partisan. You can't declare if you're a Democrat or a Republican or like a Libertarian. Those are nonpartisan races. Like I said, specifically like with judges, because you're supposed to have impartiality or what have you, or the guise of impartiality. But for a mayoral election, I find it kind of weird that this says nonpartisan. I don't know if this is correct or not, but anyway. So we have our incumbent, Mike Duggan, Anthony Adams, Tom Burrow. These are some well-known names. Tom Burrow ran, I think, multiple times previously. Anthony Adams was the deputy mayor under Kwame Kilpatrick. A lot of these other people I am not aware of and don't know as much about. We'll go ahead and just cover the top, I guess 3. So we have Mike Duggan. We have his, he BA from University of Michigan. He has a long track record. I guess he has his GD from his Juris Doctorate, i.e. law degree, from U of M as well. Looks like he was a assistant corporation counsel, Wayne County executive from 87 to 2000. He also served as Wayne County prosecutor from 2001. Oh, that can't be right. From 2001. I think they meant 2000 to 2001. I guarantee you there's interns, college interns working behind here doing this type of stuff. As presidency of DMC from 2004 to 2012. And then obviously, I believe he became mayor in 2013 or what have you. Then we have Anthony Adams, who's pretty much from what I've seen from the media that I've seen, he's pretty much the second runner. Adams completed a BS in urban management, got his JD from the University of Cincinnati.
Darvell, stand up, boy. We see who Darvell's voting for.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, he got his urban management and planning from University of Cincinnati. He got his actual law degree from Georgetown. Okay, He worked as an attorney and served as a deputy mayor of Detroit under former Mayor Kwame Kilpatrick. All right, and then we have Tom Burrow, graduated from Wayne State. I'm sorry.
He looked like Bing.
Yeah, he does kind of. I mean, I'm sure he's like in that age group as well. He does kind of look like Bing. I remember he ran. I guess he ran last when Duggan ran the first time. I'm not for sure if he ran when Duggan ran the second time. I'm not for sure, but me personally, I like Tom Burrow. I'm familiar with him. Anyways, he's a graduate from Wayne State University, accounting degree. Worked as a practicing certified public accountant. Led the civic group Citizen for Detroit's Future and was an advocate for changes to the municipal election system. And just to be fair, let me cover this sister right here because we just had 3 guys. All right, I don't want to be accused of bias. This sister Maya Jones, she's born and raised in Detroit. a proud product of the Detroit public school system. She's a technician. Oh my God. Anyway, she's a technician. Cass Tate alumni, Michigan State University. Okay, that's good. Go Green. And graduate of Wayne State University's Mike Ellis School of Business. So she's a Wayne State grad as well. That's what's up too. Yeah, we don't want to hear your piss and blue comments, the host.
Man, if you don't get this whack green and white out of here, boy.
Go green, go white, baby.
Go home, baby.
I'll go green and white over blue and yellow.
Yeah,
hey, we done asked you, Darvell. You from Ohio, bro. Let's not get distracted.
Hey, hey, I'm cool with Ohio over U of M any day.
That's your problem, bro. That's your problem. That's your loyalty. No brand loyalty, bro.
Let's not digress. Let's not digress. Go any further. And I actually met this brother. So let me get down to this brother right here. Oh no, let me finish, man. We can't. Let me finish the sister's bio out.
Yeah.
Wayne.
Say her name, bro.
Mike Ellis School of Business. In her years of activism, she's an activist. In her years of activism, she's used many of her platforms, sparked dialogue concerning marginalized groups. In doing so, she has given people of color. Oh my gosh, using her BIPOC.
There's too many bad buzzwords for me because you can have it.
She's a no already for you, right?
She's a big no, bro.
Yeah, currently.
I mean, even if I look past her school of choice, like the whole to call yourself an activist, I just feel like it's very pretentious. And then it seems like it implies to me like your mission is to do activism. It's not to really get work done. Right. And then to talk about this people of color thing. My ears just burning.
So she works for Google, all right, and leads many initiatives that have given Detroiters and Black business access to free resources provided by Google. This includes over $1 million in ad grants to nonprofits that progress Black and Brown. Oh, there we go with Ann Brown again. Ann Brown always comes up, don't she?
Yeah, the Google thing was strike 3 for me, though. That just lets you know she one of them corporate-minded Negroes who believe that hard work pays off, and all you got to do is try your hardest, and there's no there's no obstacles for Black success.
Right.
Bad business, bro. Bad business.
I dated a chick like that. I did a couple dates with her, and she realized that I was onto her mess. And she just felt very uncomfortable when I started questioning her about her purpose and her mission in terms of what she was doing with all this leverage she had accumulated in corporate America in the name of being a Black leader, quote unquote. But she wasn't doing anything but climbing the ladder and seeking opportunistic pursuits. Like she just wanted to be the best of the best at being the best. She had nothing for anyone. All right, I'm done. Go ahead.
Yeah. It's called, padding the resume. I mean, that's the Obamas, that's the Michelles, you know what I mean? That's
exactly
the blueprints out there. I actually met this brother right here at an event. If anyone that if I was get close to endorse would be this brother right here. Jason LaSosa is a Detroit-based community organizer and nonprofit executive serving as founding director of advocacy, equity, and community empowerment for the civil rights and human service organization Focus Hope. So yeah, he's an executive over at Focus Hope.
Okay.
His wife and 3 daughters are proud homeowners and active block leaders in Greenfield, Grand River corridor on Detroit's west side. This is not listed here, but this brother also is a returning citizen. So so that goes, it just tells you, like, this brother more likely than not, can relate to most of Detroit residents, who come from, have that in their background. And obviously he did not allow it to hold him down. And again, he told me this out of his own mouth. So I don't think he wouldn't want that to be shared. I'm pretty for sure he's going to, he probably is using that as his bona fides, right? As far as his cred of being a Detroiter and knowing what Detroiters go through. So those are I'll just cover those 4 for the mayoral election. So what ends up happening is also in the primary. So the top 2 that come out of this election, out of the primary, will then go into the general election. So all of these people, how many is this? a lot, right? 1, 2, 3, 4,
How many people?
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 people are running. And then only the top 2 will make it through to the general election in November.
I want to say
Somebody,
Mike Duggan went to Catholic Central High School, which is now located in Novi. It's still called Detroit Catholic Central, but it's 50 miles away from Detroit. And his father was a judge, like a federal judge or a district judge. So his father was a Republican. Mike Duggan, I mean, I don't need to belabor the point. He's bad news. He's a snake. You know, he's been entrenched in Detroit, Wayne County, state politics. And one of the things, I mean, this is a bit of a sidebar, but one of the things I always thought was interesting is that Detroit politicians don't have a bigger hand in state politics. When you think about the fact that our state has approximately, 8 to 10 million people in it, right? 80 to 70% of the people in the whole state
You live in Southeast Michigan.
live in Metro Detroit. It's about 5 million, almost 6 million people in Metro Detroit, and you don't really see a lot of Detroit connected or Wayne County connected, Macomb, Oakland County connected politicians running for governor, running even for, like I guess maybe like national office, maybe Senate, but not even then. You see a lot of those go to the Western Michigan and Northern Central Michigan. I'm always kind of confused by that. Do you have any idea?
I'm not confused by that, man. So like, at the end of the day, this is a relic of the aftermath of Coleman Young becoming the first black mayor of Detroit. In essence, Oakland and Macomb became, the refuge of all the whites that were leaving white flight, right? And Washtenaw, those that's why there's more population in the outlying tri-counties than it is in Wayne County, right?
Right.
Because Detroit is the largest city. I mean, to this day, Detroit still, even with all the 50 years worth of losing population, right? We still are the largest city population-wise. But I think it was meant to, on purpose, lock Detroit in, make Detroit politically not viable outside of Detroit, right? Sanction it off, wall it off at 8 Mile and so on and so forth, right?
Yeah, strangle it, yeah.
And then basically, in essence, you have to be an outstate politician. And then how with gerrymandering, right? With gerrymandering, they've made it to where the minority, right, being in population count, actually control state politics. Like you said, they're from the UP, they're from the western part, you know what I mean? Now, the question would be, well, why not Oakland and Macomb? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Why don't they have much more? So this, I guess that's a little bit cracking in my logic, right? Because then you still have Oakland and Macomb, which still are, the heavily populated. I'm definitely Oakland is one of, I know at one point in time it was like the 3rd richest county in America. At one point in time, I don't know where it stands at right now, but definitely, I mean, that's the type of wealth that this, this industry, the auto industry, and this state brought, right? But for what I could tell, right,
seem like
definitely for Detroit, it has always been a lockdown of Detroit because Detroit had black politics when from 73 forward, and that's why when Duggan became mayor, it was like, okay, is this the death knell of the black political process in Detroit? Was that the recognition that it's no longer viable even in Detroit? Now a white man is being elected mayor by a predominantly black city. It is, all those things are at play, man. But go ahead, somebody else want to speak.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say that's real interesting, Gerard. I would say it's some validity to that. I mean, I would even add that has Michigan predominantly been a red state or a blue state? Because I know it's a swing state, but I think the legislature is predominantly
because of all the
Republican.
population loss. So historically, I mean, if you want to go historically,
Republican, right? The
Republican
legislature.
state historically,
Yeah,
right. Historically, it's been a Republican state, but always because of the unions, it's been Democratic, solid, like for long periods of time.
Yeah,
right. So, go ahead.
And I would say also keep it in line with what you like. When you look at a city like New York or Philadelphia, they have historically been Democrat cities, but that's under the understanding that, you know, prior to what they call the Southern strategy of Nixon, you know, the Democratic Party was the party of the South.
Right.
It was the party of the
Urban.
racists.
I mean, rural
and the unions.
Yeah.
And the unions. It
Right,
was the party
right.
of the unions and
For that reason.
and machine politics and the South. That was that correlation.
Yeah. So where I was going with it was that you know, with that conservative piece, we got to take into like consolation that it's the playbook. You know what I mean? Like the Republican Party, which isn't the Republican Party when I'm saying it. I'm referring to the conservative playbook, those rural white American voters in the system.
Right,
they can set up. Yeah, the system they can set up to get most of the voting power. That's what we see.
Right, that's how it's set
what y'all talking about with the tri-counties. Like Lansing has a lot of like might and power, etc., and so does some of these small town suburbs like DeWitt, etc. But that's more power to the urban white voter than those who live in the urban cities like Flint and Detroit and possibly Saginaw and Ann Arbor. But yeah, I definitely wanted to point that out where we would see a more progressive type of, you know what I'm saying, voting environment in those cities. Usually it's not, you know, I would say these like rural towns don't have those same views, and that's where you see differences in the political power.
Yeah, see the thing about it when it comes to statewide elections, right? And the thing is that how Detroit goes. If Detroit has the power to basically, if it came out in high numbers, it'll trump everything out state and long, you know, and as well as you go because Oakland County, predominant Oakland and Macomb, you know, Oakland is much more like, you know, lefty liberal, and Macomb being like worker, you know, those Reagan Democrats, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
they flip that, you know what I'm saying? So that's how Trump got in office, was through Macomb. You know,
and like what you said too, man. Even with Washington, all because of U of M being there, Eastern is there. You find a lot of those, like in the primary in 2016, it went to Bernie.
Right.
You know, Bernie Sanders won Washington County.
Right.
So you find a lot of those lefty, liberal, white people.
He won Detroit.
Yeah, leftists. Yeah.
He won
Detroit.
Why did
he won Detroit? He won Detroit because I think legitimately his message resonates.
Yeah, and he had a ground game too.
Hey.
Whereas Hillary Clinton really didn't. She didn't campaign here.
She took. What
was one of the good messages? Bringing back the manufacturing jobs, and in Detroit, you think black people or whoever don't want that back,
right?
Yeah,
it's a resonating message. But yeah, the only other thing I wanted to point.
I think what resonated with him was the $15 an hour, you know, minimum wage. Because I don't think Bernie was talking too much about bringing back manufacturing jobs. Trump was talking that. That's how he got Macomb. Trump was talking that. But Bernie was talking about $15 minimum dollar range.
What?
You know, he was talking about, you know, getting rid of student loan debt. You know, he was talking all the things that are hurting the average day person. Trump was playing into the racism and to the nostalgia of white America, and that's how he got Macomb County and those outlying counties in the UP and the Western and those other places, right? You know, throughout Michigan, you know, because really, honestly, we could go all day about this. Let's let's talk about the city council.
Hey, look, I'm the host now. We can't.
Yeah, no. The last thing I wanted to point out was out of those lists of mayoral candidates, they did have write-in candidates. So to the audience, I just want you guys to know on a local level, people are doing the things that we've seen and suggested on the national scale, which is write in the people that you want to support, and then at the same time, you know, hey, this is what you got to do with your vote. Like, this is your power. So
yeah, really. That's at the local level.
Duggan won as a write-in candidate.
As a write-in candidate the first time.
Right. Yeah. So don't think that
it was fishy.
Right.
That's what they said.
That's what they said. It was
said
fishy,
he won as well.
But either way, that was the mechanism of how he got in. You know, so but it was definitely fishy, supposedly. But anyway, anyway. So we can talk all day.
Yeah. So do you want to discuss either the policies on the ballot, like Proposal P, or
Well, I want to get at least talking about the city council real quick.
Okay.
And then if you guys want to cover like policies, I didn't go that far in depth about the policies as far as proposal.
I don't know if they're all been finalized. I tried to look those up already. We know Prop P is there, but I don't know if everything else has been put on yet. That's going to be up. But go ahead, you can zoom into the screen a little bit. Also holding the control button down.
What do I need to do?
Yeah, and scroll up on your mouse, like on your clicker, or move up on your mouse, like if you got a trackpad.
Using a mouse, Gerard?
Yeah, I am using a mouse.
Hold the control key down and then scroll up with the mouse wheel.
Okay. Oh, I see. Okay.
Gotcha.
Is that better?
This is tech support here.
Yeah.
You got the wrong accent for tech support, Playboy.
hey, let's go.
I didn't say what accent. I just said the wrong one.
Hey,
I didn't say where you got to have it.
This is good, guys.
That's better.
Yeah, it looks
go
good.
ahead and talk to it.
Okay. So we'll hit up about the city council. So this is a very key thing, right? We had, I believe, 3 incumbents are not running for a re-election. So there's actually like some major seats open that could actually turn the actual council. Now, since voter this falls will have a rare chance to tip the balance of power on Detroit City Council with 4 out of 9 seats up for grabs on a body that typically votes with Mayor Mike Duggan. Okay. Nearly 24 council candidates will appear on the primary and November ballots. Primaries will be held in District 1, 4, and 7, and 2 at-large or citywide seats. There will be no primary in District 2 or 6. So District 2 and 6, there won't be any primary. Those 2 candidates in each race will automatically advance to the November ballot. 5 and 3, Council Member Mary Sheffield, and District 3 Council Member Scott Benson. That's my council member, and I boo him. That's my personal opinion. I don't speak for the Freedmen agenda, but that's my personal opinion. Boo Scott Benson. Are meanwhile running for re-election unopposed.
Was Scott Benson my man who came up with that alternative?
So he came up with, he pushed that corporate community benefits agreement. So for me, Scott Benson isn't the guy for the people, man.
That's got to be the best feeling in the world. As for a politician running for re-election with
unopposed. Right, exactly. Right.
That's free power.
Yeah, that's just wild, man.
That's a nice one. I like it. Free power.
Yeah, free power. Yeah. The funny thing is that a brother was, had the signatures. Brother Malik, Ramon Jackson's co-partner, the brother from both of them are with the pressure movement, and they, the city clerk discertified their signatures, So see, this is where people don't like politics, right? You know what I'm saying? The little dirty tricks that are played, But yeah, man. Anyway, so moving forward, so this is very critical, guys, because in the city council, in essence, is the Detroit's version of the legislative, or like Congress, right? Mm-hmm. This is where ordinances, statutes come into play, different policy decisions about the money that the city uses, obviously within the boundaries of what the charter says. So imagine this, the charter of Detroit, which is Proposal P, that's going to be up on the ballot on the 3rd, whether or not to accept the proposals for the charter, which is, again, like, if we want to make an analogy, that's like the Constitution, right? And then the city council is like Congress, and then the mayor is like the president, if you want to give an analogy or what have you. So this is very critical where we got here, basically 5 seats, really. 1, 4, 7, 2. 1, 4, and 7, and 2 at large. Okay, 2 at large. So that's all. So obviously you have to live in District 1, 4, and 7 to vote for those candidates that are up for that election in the primary. But the at large means that if you live in the city of Detroit, you have the choice of picking whoever's running for at large. Now, these are in this particular article, who's running for at large. These are the new ones. So this sister right here, her name is I believe is Smalls. So it says from left, council includes Nicole Small, Jermaine Jones, Mary Waters, and Coleman Young Jr. So it's obviously this is a play for name recognition, and that's the thing with local elections. Like so few people come out to vote. Like no one, if you notice, like you haven't seen a lot of campaigning. You haven't really been seeing any thing on television, like even letting the people know, hey, there's elections. That's done on purpose, people.
Yeah, that's the bull trap there.
Isn't there a mayoral debate tonight?
It's a debate tonight, but debate? It's not televised, and
it's a live in-person debate. The city hall is still closed down, but the mayoral candidates, however many they're having, whatever the requirement, are having an in-person debate.
Yeah.
And this is the kind of thing, when you look at the way, whatever you feel about how this pandemic has played out, when you look at the way that they manipulated a lot of these measures, what they close and how they enforce some of these closures, making requirements for what you would call, what do they call it? Essential workers. The city government is essential. We need to get in there and see what's going on. We need to be able to hear. We need to be able to interact. You haven't really seen large scale, democratic messaging for, hey, go out, get out and vote for your primary or for the midterm or for whatever for these cities at the state level.
If voting rights was such an issue, they would do so.
So just to be clear, I know we don't know, but that also points to how well advertised and televised this information really is. Detroit Action is live streaming the mayoral debate on their page. They were outside, but then they had to move inside because it's raining pretty hard right now. So if I disappear, it's because I lost power. But that's one thing. And the Facebook commenter said that the campaigning has been going on more on a local and in-person scale. And I will say, at least I've been watching Nicole Small, and she's definitely been out there. But she also is an advocate for Proposal P because she's on the Charter Commission, and also just going out there dealing with a lot of these issues. So, I know we don't know and we don't see a lot of it. It seems like there's a lot of people who are on the ground, especially the city council people, because they only got to get who? They just got to get people in the district to vote for them, right? Although they can get votes from anywhere. I don't know how the district chops it up.
So yeah, you're right, Darvell. So in district, so with the charter change in 2012, that it used to be different. But now, as of 2012, there's 7 districts, and a council member has to, be elected from the people who vote in their district, right? Mm-hmm. And then you have 2 at-large council seats, which means that the whole city, right? So she's running for the at-large. It used to be that whoever the 2 top vote getters out of all those who ran, right, would be number 1, would be the president, and then pro tem would be the person that came in second with as far as the number of votes tallied, right? All out of all 9. But that got changed with the charter revision in 2012, and basically, what ends up happening is that you bring up the whoever gets voted in at the at-large seats, right? Then the actual 7, the body of the 7 of the 7 council members, they vote on who's going to be president and pro tem.
Okay.
If that makes any sense.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Got it. All right.
That's the difference between where it used to be. And so this is citywide. So these are the main runners. So Janae Ayers, she's already an incumbent. She's already at-large council member, right? So it says here, high-profile former elected officials, including the son of the city's first Black mayor, are competing for prestigious seats on the city council representing all of Detroit's neighborhoods, right? At-large councilwoman Janae Ayers is up against former state Senator Coleman A. Young II. So these 2, right? Her being an incumbent is going to already give her a leg up.
Of course.
Right.
Yeah.
Then also Coleman Young Jr. He was already a state representative. I mean, at the state representative, he's ran for governor. You know, his father was, you know, the first black mayor. You know what I mean? Of Detroit.
Iconic figure in the city.
Exactly. So odds are, if I was a betting man, right, I would put it on that what's going to more likely than not is going to be Coleman Young and Janae Ayers that end up being, you know, the at-large people. But like you said, you know, Smalls, she's, you know, maybe she got a good ground game, but I you know, again, I don't know. You know, honestly, it just really hasn't been a lot of attention, and you have to understand, turnout is everything, right? And so, low voter turnout actually benefits those who are in establishment, right? It benefits those who are the go along, get along gang, as Kwame Brown says, right? That's what happens. They see this all. They want to have a low turnout because say, guess what? I only got to hit up, you know, certain neighborhoods. You know what I'm saying? The older senior citizens. You know, certain neighborhoods in Detroit on the west side. You know what I'm saying? We got, you know, the Rosedales. You know what I mean? The certain areas. You know, some of the still prominent, the Palmer Parks. You know what I mean? Palmer Woods. You know, the certain areas, right? You know, that affluent areas in Detroit that still remain. I can hit them up because I know they're going to vote, right? Because they have a stake in it. Whereas the rest of Detroit, right? This used to be a predominant black home ownership city. We flipped since 2009. We flipped to a predominant renter, right? So most of the people who are owning the homes in Detroit, right, are actually people out of state companies and contractors and investment companies and firms and stuff. So they don't really give a damn. And the people, you know, usually renters, unfortunately, people who rent are less likely to be politically active because most of the time they're moving around all the time, right? You know, so this system benefits those who are in power.
That was a deep point to make right there.
Yeah.
Yes, it was.
We got a breaking alert from Robinson Hood. If you see him in the comments, he just said Jeff Bezos just gave $100 million to Van Jones and Chef Jose Andres to do whatever they want with. It is off topic, but it's very important to understand the type of power and control a person has when he can just give $100 million away, and what that says when he's giving it to a man, Van Jones, who's supposed to be a news reporter. Right, because what the lines have been blurred, right? Even with our show, I mean, we do more of an opinion, editorialized news show. But when you look at historically, the news is supposed to be very nonpartisan and very straightforward. Now, that doesn't mean that there aren't lies and, you know, misrepresentations or omissions of facts. But what it does mean is that, at least on the surface, you should know the political ideology of the person telling you the news. We do editorialize it, so it's a lot more lenient, right? And so what does that mean? In a system where there, you know, he's worth $200 billion now, right? Just went to the space, 66 miles up, and he's given a news reporter who worked in the Obama White House, used to be a socialist. Van Jones lived in a socialist commune, Yale Law School graduate, $100 million. What does that say about the state of our world, the media sphere, and the black community, right? Because Van Jones is still a black man, right? What does that all say? So, you know, it's off topic totally, but
we'll tie it back to the topic by saying you take that and tie with what Gerard just said about the renters and how they're barely involved in the voting process. You know what I'm saying? Because then that shows you, in the world that we live in, the elite or the rich, they have power to do things and possibly sway politics at a greater level than most of us who just rent it. Most of us who out here not even barely participate. And that's not me, but, you know, of course we got people in our communities who not. So
and we can tie that in. Our billionaires, right, are the Dan Gilberts, the Mike Illiches, you know, the Kresge's, you know, the Fords, You know what I'm saying? You name it, right? You know what I'm saying? That those are the ones who have the political might and will, because again, they can don't, politicians, are going to go for, the donations, to their campaigns, because if they want to keep power, they gotta, they got to donate, you have to run campaigns. But shit, excuse me. But like, and obviously you don't even got to really run that hard.
I mean,
in local elections is, you know what I mean? You ain't got to run that hard. You got to, because so many people are so disillusioned with this whole system, they don't participate, which is the point. You got to be disillusioned in the system to not participate. For those who do participate, now they have extra weight. Right, Darvell, you could probably speak about weight. Well, he's a mathematician. You know what I mean? How something, how one
scientist wizard
versus another vote, right? Well, what happens when you don't have participation of the local people, the working class, the working poor, right? Y'all don't participate. You know what I'm saying? Now the value of those who do actually have more value.
It's almost like, you know what? I'll say it's almost like a perpetual. I'll say it's almost like a perpetual motion machine, in the sense that when you start to disenfranchise people and cut them out and ensure that they stay out so badly that they don't even want to be concerned with the political process, as simple as voting and keeping registered to vote, you end up keeping out the people who would vote against those who kicked them out. And so then now you can never seem to get someone into play who would actually change the system to pull those people back in. So then you end up relying on NGOs and other activists and nonprofits to try to pick up the pieces and get these votes back into the system to offset those who are actually in favor of those who pushed them out in the first place. So it becomes, just as you said, the upper crust. Well, the Macomb counties go their way. The Oakland County goes their way. Wayne County basically doesn't show up for the most part. And then Washtenaw County goes their way. And so then we get pushed around. And the only thing that happens is when you get an Obama, or you get you get a Kamala who pops up and galvanizes that disparate community, that conflicted community, with something that's either identity politics, something that's going to move them like a $15 minimum wage, or even talking about something specific to the city. They say, oh my gosh, our savior has arrived, wherever that be, Chicago, Detroit, Miami, whatever the group is, wherever the geographical area is, their savior arrives, and that moves them to the polls. I remember back when Obama was coming through, I remember how that pulled people to the polls. I remember how, in comparison, Hillary had to try so hard, but could not get the ground game together to get the support. So it's like she didn't have anything for him. Obama didn't have anything for us, but everybody thought he had it. And so anytime the people who are down on the bottom think they see something that might be for them, all of a sudden the bus goes that direction with no requirements in return, and then we lose again. It's like hope it's like hope in a hot air balloon, but there's no gas in the hot air balloon. All right, I'm
just
done.
like now, hope with no change. Obama was hoping change. Joe Biden was hope with no change. Hope I change something for your ass.
Yeah, I add to that and just say flawed voting pool, right? Like, because at this point, like you said, Darvell, those who participate are never going to speak out against those who kicking people out of this system and making sure people are barred from participating. So we got 100 people from DeWitt basically speaking for the whole of Detroit on a national scale. That's what's happening. You know what I'm saying? So that's where we at.
But
so that's my coverage, guys, for the local piece. I know we got other segments to go on.
I'm doing a horrible job hosting because we've been talking about this for 50 minutes. But I just get into the conversation, man. That's the only reason why I don't like to host. I have terrible time management because I just like to talk. I like to get it, even though I like to be in those conversations. But we're gonna move to Ernest. You got the next topic, bro. We're gonna talk about AB 3121.
Yeah, we're gonna keep it like just a little brief because I do got a few video clips. But what I'll do is pick some of the key ones, and we can kind of just touch base on that. But for those who not familiar, AB 3121, that's the California bill that was established to create a task force to study reparations and propose solutions for those who descend from American slavery. So with AB 3121, they are having public meetings of the task force where some really crucial information is being shared. And us out there who identify as reparationists, I really want to say that AB 3121. That's probably it's one of the leading bills that we have out here with reparations, and it's important that while we might not get everything 100% correct, it's important that we at least try to strive for 80 to 90% accuracy in what we want out of this thing. So, they've been having some discussions about the bill, talking, who should get it, what type of studies need to be involved, how can we engage the community. There's been, several discussions where they were like, okay, it's a bill to study or establish reparations solutions or proposals for the Black American community or African Americans. But then in that conversation, you hear people trying to warp it into a community effort, something similar to affirmative action, where we have to remember that there's other marginalized communities. But then you got some task force members speaking up and saying, no, we got to keep this specifically to Black people. Every time it comes to solving a Black person's issue, we want to make sure it's for every person in America, which has ultimately led to all of these rights that we see in immigration, women's rights, LGBTQ, et cetera. Without America actually taking the steps to actually fix the Black community, they do millions of other things based on our own struggles and political achievements. So, with that being said, I'll go ahead and share my screen and just play. I'll play like 2 clips, guys, and then we can kind of discuss on it, because I do want to see what you guys think and get your opinions on it as well.
Okay, if you share, I'll pull it up. Unless you tell me, okay. I got the timestamps.
Yeah, let me just let me send you the video, then I'll drop them in the chat.
Oh, it's the YouTube video, yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, I got it pulled up already.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, go ahead and share.
Did it? We want to start at the 53 mark.
Let's start at the 30 minute and 53. Well, actually, not 33 minutes. Let's start at 35 minutes. Jovan Lewis speaks regarding the special consideration for Blacks, because there's been some conversation going on about what is the ultimate goal of this. Is it just reparations for the whole Black community with a special consideration for those who come from slavery, or is it specifically for those who come from slavery, et cetera? That's kind of some of the open-end discussion going on right now, but we can definitely play that.
Okay. So we're going to jump to, we're going to jump to 35 minutes in.
Does anyone else on the task force have any open-ended comments at this time about how we should define community? Again, before we get to more structured presentations from task force members, if possible. Mr. Jovan Scott Lewis, you are recognized. What are your thoughts and comments?
Madam President, I just want us to take into consideration that AB 3121, because the task force is convened to study and develop reparation proposals for African Americans, with a special consideration for African Americans who are descendants of persons enslaved in the United States. And so I'm wondering if there's any further clarification about what this special consideration means in respect to the more generalized kind of identification of African Americans that comes before. So in other words, how are we thinking about the relationship between this broader indication, again, so studying and developing reparation proposals for African Americans, with a special consideration for African Americans who are descendants of persons enslaved in the United States.
Now, Darvell, we can pause it right there.
Thank you, Jovan.
Now, with that question that he asked, which was brilliant, he pretty much laid out that the bill is reparations for all Black people, but the special considerations for Black Americans, what does that mean from a reparation standpoint that repairs the harm, that addresses the history, the timeline, et cetera? As you can see, I find it problematic when he says, for African Americans, and it's inclusive to the whole Black community. But I think operating within the bounds of the language that they have inside of their bill, that's the approach that some of these folks on this task force will take. And, us in the reparationist space, I know we definitely want reparations to be solely for Black people. I think that America is trying to tackle this from a race standpoint when they are aware of the history of trying to use race and for justice claims in America. It's moot. But at the same time, like, they're trying to use race for our justice claim when the reality is it is tied to a specific lineage. What you guys think?
Go ahead, Stedman.
Having never seen the clip, I'd like to be as what's the word I want to use? Generous, charitable.
Yep.
With his comments as you are. And you do need clarification because, why do you need to have an African American bill and then a special consideration? How does that look? At the same time, if he's being, in my opinion, obtuse about what that means, it's interesting to me. I could tell from his accent that he's not from the United States. He has lived here long. He lived in another country long enough to develop an accent that isn't of this nation's accent. So he was here before like the age of 9. And so, like, if I go back to his home and they're doing CARICOM and I move to that state or country, am I going to be entitled to any reparations or recompensatory benefits from the CARICOM program? That's what special recognition means. And so, like, I feel like the fact that it's in there at all is a problem because then it leaves the door open for this reparations idea to be all encompassing. And it shouldn't be, because if we're doing reparations, and this is why state level reparations is dangerous when you frame it as a state issue or a state need, because right. Robinson Hood has got some gems in the chat this morning. This evening, he might have to call in or she might have to call in. But you need to understand that the reparations fight that we're all having this conversation about every other Tuesday, and whenever we do prop-ups, is about the fight for recompense for the descendants of those who were enslaved in the United States, those people who are the descendants of those who built this country for free, primarily first. Now, redlining, sharecropping, all that other stuff is very important, but the baseline is my ancestors built this country for free and we're giving nothing for it, right? And that's the baseline. So that's where we start. Everything else compounds on top of that issue. Now, if we want to sit back and say, well, there are some in the 20s or 30s, a handful of Black Caribbeans, which, depending on how they framed themselves within the confines of the American racial caste system, meaning if they moved into Black neighborhoods and accepted themselves as Black people, as American Negroes, then I have no problem with them receiving benefits or whatever, even if, even if that murkies things up a bit, because you have accepted that you're one of us. And there was nothing to gain by doing that, right? You haven't otherized yourself from us.
Yeah.
But if you came here in the 80s or even the 70s or the 60s, and there were attempts for you to create a community of your own group in this country and otherize yourself from us and our experiences while simultaneously benefiting from our fight, our death, our blood, our work. No. And it's not hard to figure that out.
Mm-hmm. Now, I'll give Jovan Scott Lewis some grace and say that in me watching these meetings, he has been one who's asked these like good questions, because there are some Pan-Africans on the council and some civil rights advocates, and they are already conflating the issue to race, race alone, that all Black people, no matter where, it could be Latin America, all Black people are subject to what happened to our ancestors. And that's the issue. So, I'm glad he asked that question, because I know it's greater the conversation that need to be had to really address this. But Darvell, if you want to, can you skip to 2:05 and you can just pause the screen on 2 hours and 5 minutes? Well, actually, before we go to 2 hours and 5 minutes, let's go to 1 hour and 52 minutes. It's going to be a short clip from a lady responding to this question that Jovan Lewis asked. So Cheryl Grill, she'll be speaking on this one.
In 250 years, these United States of America, legally, in a systematized way, treating us like we were tools. We have to be careful that we not open this thing up and let forces come in that would sabotage us. That's my concern. Remember, Aristotle said in his Politics that we were inferior because our skin was black, that we would never be capable of self-governance. We would always have to have somebody else who's white over us.
Yeah. Now, Darville, not at 58 minutes. It's 1 hour and 52 minutes. But what Dr. Amos Brown was doing, he was basically standing up for the black community. He was using our lineage and what you just heard. But at the end of the day, he is one for, saying that the entire black race deserves reparation in America because of our history, I suppose, which doesn't make sense. But I would encourage the audience. Yeah, I was
gonna say, man, because I'd like to respect older people. I like to respect older black men. I like to respect black elders, but they sometimes, everybody sometimes they say dumb shit, and there's no two. You lived in a world that is in no way similar to what we have today. When he was our age, how many foreign-born black people? How many foreign black people lived in this country, right? And in the last, just look about the advancements of technology. In the last 20 years ago, we didn't have iPhone. Bro, what are you talking about?
You want to know how real what you're saying is? That when I was growing up as a kid, there was the only immigrant group that we had to consider was Latinos, like Mexicans, like in our area, just because that's who was there. There was no other wide range diversity of all the other groups. So literally, that's the only group that was in our area, like at a higher number. So, those are the only kids I seen. I never had to look at any other kids of the black race who may be black, shares our history, but they don't. So, I would definitely put that out there. But Ravel, you got that clip with the 1 hour 52. No, Steve, I'm gonna let you get back in. I want y'all to hear it because this is tied to the.
I want to let you play your video because I play mine and I'll be too long, so I don't want to overstep all your video.
How you good, Steph? You muted. You muted,
Darville.
I stopped at 1 hour 52 into it. It was 1 hour 52, 35 seconds at that point. So we're going to start off from where exactly I stopped it.
Okay.
All right.
What? Okay. It looked like it was at the 58. Oh, my bad. All right. Yeah, we were at the right spot.
Why does this plant?
Yeah, you gonna say something, Steph?
Remember, Aristotle said in his Politics that we were inferior because our skin was black, that we would never be capable of self-governance.
Hey, just fast forward a little bit, Darville. You see Cheryl Grill's going to start speaking.
Who's white over us.
Finding community. The way I'm thinking about it and the way I was conceptualizing it in that blueprint is in terms of a series of concentric circles, right? There are multiple communities that we are dealing with and that we have to keep our eye on. At the heart of it, at the center circle, is the African American descendants of slaves. That's the special attention group. That's who gets privileged and prioritized. But immediately around that group, the next circle of community are people of African ancestry who may have been born here, descendant of enslaved Africans, but may have migrated here or emigrated here, right? And who are at the receiving end of the same kinds of racial assaults. We can't ask Amadou Diallo, you know, what his thoughts are about community, because even though he wasn't born here, he wasn't a descendant of an enslaved African here, he was treated just like the brother on the street and shot down by the police. So they're being impacted in some very, very real ways,
Now,
and they are part of our community.
now let's pause it right there. So this is going back to the whole issue of conflating Black justice. Like this has happened historically, like across the timeline in America. When we got civil rights, they was giving things to other groups of people. When every time Black people made noise to receive something, this is where other groups were able to advance their privileges and access in this country. Now, for us specifically, because people share our skin color, they're saying that their experience is equivalent to 200 years of slavery, 80 whatever years of Jim Crow, and 56 years of continued, you know what I'm saying, like oppression and terrorism in a country where we're 10th generation, like literally. So it's problematic, but I feel like us as reparationists, these are the conversations that we are going to hear, because people don't see race and ethnicity the way we see it in the lineage sense, and they don't tie it that way when they think about reparations or Black policy. Like if we look at policies to fix the Black American community, if you don't focus solely on the freedmen community, then really you're not fixing the Black community. That's the majority, and those are the group of people that if you targeted them, it would disproportionately affect all Black people across the U.S. So that's the facts that we're dealing with.
So I'll say that, you know, I understand exactly what she's saying, and I've had concerns or thoughts about this myself. I'm not saying that, I guess how I'm saying is that she has a very good point. But you have to actually do the math for the rest of that non-descendant of freedmen community. I'd rather
so you get reparations for experiencing racism, Darville?
No.
Hold on, I'm finishing this.
Yeah.
I'm saying that, just like we've said before in the past, if they want to advocate for something that they feel they're owed, that is specific to racism, then that's a case that can be built, but that's not our case that we're building. So to say that there is nothing over there, I'm not here to push back against that. I mean, I'm not here to say that there's nothing in the pale of the descendants of, or in the case for whatever, for the descendants of Black immigrants. But their case is going to look similarly to everybody else who isn't a descendant of freedmen, right? It's going to be something that they can bring up, but theirs is probably going to be worse as descendants of Black immigrants because they're Black. And that's going to get them the collateral damage that I've spoken about in the past that comes with being Black in this country specifically, because they're targeting us. So again, our mandate here is collective, transformative, reparative justice for the descendants of freedmen. But I'm not going to get in the way of any other group, whether they be Black or not, that wants to build a case for themselves specifically, because we are owed something. And there's a very specific number that we talk about, the calculations Darity and other economists have done. That number is that number. If they have some number, I don't know what it is. I'm not here to calculate it. But if someone wants to put that case together and go check that can. Now, as far as our government, the government that is responsible to the descendants of freedmen, that government can't give away a dime of what we are owed to anyone else. But if they are owing it to, if they owe something else to somebody else, it's going to have to wait, right? We talk about priority. We talk about how to correct this issue. We are first in line, but I'm not going to that somebody else doesn't have a case of any case. I just don't think it should be blended with ours.
Yeah, and I think that's what we're saying here.
Yeah,
that's ultimately what we're saying, and it is going to be blended.
Right, they're talking to blend it, and we're saying no, don't blend it. But right. I mean,
but see, this is what, like, this is just what, you know, what I just said, and this, it's a larger point that we have talked about a lot on this show. This is the whole issue with representation matters and all this stuff. Ultimately, what we're talking about for reparations is not for the nebulous term of racism. right? It's not because somebody looked at you when you walked into a store. It's not because when you went into a store and the cashier or the clerk didn't think you could afford to buy whatever the store sold or whatever product, they question you in a weird way. It's not even about getting shot by the police, right? This is about making whole the descendants of people who worked for free to build what up until today is the richest, most powerful country on the planet. That's it, right? Redlining, the GI Bill, sharecropping is all interwoven. It's all, that's the foundation of this, right? All that, that's what that's all resting on, is the foundation of free labor. If the brother got shot by the police, his family need to file a suit for wrongful death or police negligence or police brutality. Those are laws that exist right now on the books. We don't need to have compassion and make this a racism bill or a racism punishment bill. This is restitution. If somebody hits me, I'm walking down the street and somebody hits me, everybody else who got a broke leg don't get a check. Everybody else who been in an accident don't get a check. This is specific to our people. It's our community. If, like you're saying, if they want to advocate, hey, we need a special extra law apart from laws that exist for police brutality, even though I'm not saying they work as they work, I'm not saying that there's not corruption, but it's the same corruption we've lived with, right? Sandra Bland family ain't getting paid. Eric Garner family ain't getting paid. Mike Brown family ain't getting paid. And so now what? Because of what happened to Rodney King, for example, in California, every black person who got beat by the police get reparations. Reparations, not money from police, not a settlement like Rodney King went to trial. Reparations, the reparations bill. That don't make sense.
Yep.
Now to your point though, Stedman, I believe that the families did file all lawsuits against the cities that they lived in, and I believe Mike Brown's family got money. I believe that's one thing that Crump will get. He will get you money for your death ones. So they have been there has been restitution in that regards to those individual families. But I agree with what you're saying. See, slavery. I'm sorry, slavery is the beginning. But to me, I'm in my opinion, because I think people harp on slavery too much in this reparations talk. To me, we were held out of the economic activities that are now, as we see as a result, what we see in America as a result of today. So we were held. So after slavery, our people, and we could track that out to now. Because a lot of times people argue, oh, slavery, nobody was a slave. To me, that's almost like, okay, you're right. That is the start. That's the beginning, right? The nexus event. Since I'm a low-key watching person, right? For those who watch Marvel stuff, the nexus event is freaking slavery. But that branch kept on going. You know what I mean? And we can, for me, in my opinion, I think Tasi Coates, he made it very plain. Like, if we just got to just look at, okay, you held us out of the GI Bill, you held us out of you redlining. That alone, you prevented what America's modern day society and modern day middle class was built upon that, right? Trump's family wealth came from his father getting government contracts to build projects and build buildings from the government. His grandfather came here originally, but the wealth of the family came from Fred Trump. You know what I'm saying? And that's when most of them, white America, got its money. Most of it. You know what I'm saying? That's where you see this big wage gap. And so you prevented my people from having access to these programs, right? Real life, we just got to go back to from my personally, I just go back to my grandfather's generation, grandmother's generation. I don't have to go all the way back to slavery. You know what I'm saying? We can go just two generations up from me, right? And all of the things, all of the the things that were done to make black business non-competitive. Why our Ebonies, our Jets of the world, our black media can't compete because of the racism and being shut out of the marketplace. That's why that is the beginning of the origins, in my opinion. You know what I'm saying? Of why we have this big ass gap now. It started with slavery, but it really got accelerated because even after slavery, coming out of slavery, blacks and whites that gap wasn't as big. You know what I'm saying? But post World War II, you know what I mean? That shit super jumped up. You know what I'm saying?
Globalization, all of that.
In the 70s and 80s and so on, right? Mass incarceration, everything that's been done, right, it is all the biggest gaps have come in the modern day era. And to me, that needs to be, so you gave something to one class of citizens and you held it from another class of citizens. So all we have to say is, in my opinion, my argument is that, hey, you already gave white people reparations. You gave it to them through the GI Bill, through HUD, through all this government money and so on and so forth, right? That created, all these suburbs, you know what I'm saying, that were created on government dime, in essence, to the developers, to, all the loans that was given out to the banks that the banks gave out to the white people that didn't give us to us, right? We can focus on that. Just now, you got to give us that now. Give us those opportunities, and you can't give it to nobody else. You know what I'm saying? And for the black immigrants that came, of those who were here, that maybe could trade, like you said, that were recognizing themselves as black, and they fall into that category. But most was, we already know what the data states, right? That, prior to 1965, with the 1965 immigration bill or act, right? The black immigrants here were to the right of the decimal. Most black immigrants can trace their coming to this country, or their roots to this country when they came. It's from the 70s and the 80s. Now you've come after all of the legal book, all the legal stuff has come off the books.
Yeah.
Right?
Now
come after that with wealth and so on and so forth. So no, I don't feel like, no, that's what should be the basis. Should be all economic based. Like you said, it shouldn't be about racism and about, getting killed by police. It should be all an economic based argument. End of discussion, period, as they say.
Now I'm glad you said that, Gerard, because what we got here on the screen for all of our viewers and future viewers is, when they were having the discussions and voting on how they're going to operate this thing, because right now the initial meetings is just set up and they're having initial discussions and kind of getting the vibe for what they can do, what they can say, what communities they can include and what they can't, and et cetera. And I think it's important that we realize that they have just recently established a way to take in public comments, ideas, and as well as, proposals for this task force and where the communities want to see it go, where outside opinions actually get a say-so in this. Now, with this being a local bill, this works in our favor because Black Americans are really paying attention to this. I think, we got to take advantage of these options that we see here on the screen, which is, oral testimony, which they'll be taking that. People will be allowed to write comments on the AB 3121 website. They want to do written comments as well as a mixture of some of the things we see here. They had to vote on either like option 1, 2, or 3, or actually option 1, 2, or 3 of each section. So, if you guys rewatch the ETM Media Group's coverage of this, you'll see what bills what options they actually selected. But I'll tell you this, they are giving us the chance to engage this committee. Each meeting at the end, if you raise your hand at the end of the Blue Jeans conference, you'll be able to give a 1 to 2 minute comment and discuss your ideas on what you heard, and then even give criticism of things that you did here. So I know we called in, we definitely laid out that we were against the idea of opening up reparations for Black Americans to all Black immigrants, etc. Just off of the simple fact that you could be a Black Guatemalan and just got here and didn't suffer any of those things Gerard just mentioned, and you deserve the same reparations as someone who went through that timeline. It's not really comparable or realistic. And so, that's what I wanted to lay out here with just this screenshot, is letting you guys know that in upcoming meetings, I would encourage you all to get out there, let your voices be heard, drop a comment, email them, call the committee, leave those comments, because each meeting they're going to summarize those. The DOJ is going to collect a summary of them, as well as highlight the most important comments or the most repetitive ones. And that's what's going to be discussed in the top of the morning of each meeting, and then so forth into the discussions as it relates to reparations. So the last thing, guys, that I wanted to share, Darvell, I want to paste this other video in here just to wrap us up. I wanted to show you guys the schedule that they got coming up for the topics and the discussions on reparations proposals for Black Americans. Darvell, if you go to that second video I just pasted in the chat, we're going to go to the 30-minute mark, at 30 minutes, like 30 seconds if you want to.
And I also tried to implement some ideas from public comment and public feedback that we received via email. So the calendar that I'm about to show you is a combination of ideas from all of those different groups, as well as my own ideas. So for meeting 3, September, and the same dates, they're the same dates as proposed by the California Department of Justice. So meeting 3, September 2021 topic could be on the transatlantic slave trade, the institution of slavery, and the impetus and implications of the Great Migration. So day 1 could cover topics related to the transatlantic slave trade, the institution of slavery. And I think it's important to even have an expert testimony that could give us a primer on like the national reparations efforts and the international law framework that could then guide us for the rest of this process. And then day 2 will cover the following topics: the impetus and implications of the Great Migration. So that would include a discussion on the lack of political inclusion of Black Americans in this country, in this state, economic disempowerment, convict leasing, Black codes, and other forms of racial terror. And just to remind members of the public, each hearing we will have expert testimony, public testimony, and public comment. So for instance, for meeting 3, day 1 and day 2, we will have expert testimony, public testimony, and public comment for each day. And so for instance, day 2, in terms of public testimony, just to give a quick example, if there's an elder, you know, I'm sure I have people in my family who were a part of the Great Migrations. They could say out of their own mouths, what was the impetus behind why you came to California? What are the things you faced that you didn't think you would face in this quote unquote free state, right? Okay, so meeting 4, October 21 topic could be on segregation, discriminatory policies in public and private life. So the first day, we would talk about education, housing, and environmental justice, right? That's an idea that's been retained by the California Department of Justice. And then day 2, we will cover segregation and discriminatory policies as it relates to the racial wealth gap, banking, and labor. So that would include a conversation on Black farmers and the military, you know, the disproportionate application of the GI Bill, things like that. Meeting 5, December 2021, the topic, first day would be on infrastructure, gentrification, and homelessness, and a larger discussion about public health. And then the second day, we would have a discussion on entertainment, sports, arts, and culture, where we might get into a discussion about the history of racism and anti-Black discrimination, entertainment, arts, and the sports industries, and discuss the current barriers for Black and African Americans in these respective industries. Meeting 6, mid-February 2022, topic, first day, we can talk about the history of policing and the war on drugs and its consequences on Black communities in California. Day 2, we can talk about the criminal legal system, where we can really delve deep into, you know, the state of jails and prisons, and anti-Black bias as well, in relations to hate crimes, which I made a comment about in the introduction of this meeting today. Meeting 7, mid-March 2022, addressing various legal considerations and exploring reparation in the form of compensation. So I was thinking day 1, we could cover the following topics: who is eligible for reparations, right? Maybe we can talk about the 13th Amendment and issues around constitutional law, the limits of Proposition 209, and scales of culpability in terms of private actors, as this is something that Javon Scott Lewis raised in our last meeting in terms of scales of culpability. Not only will we be considering, this on the state and national level in terms of culpability, but even private actors, corporations, universities, things like that. And day 2, we'll really be digging deep into the forms of reparations in international law under this proposal. So for day 2, we will cover topics around the international legal justification, the different forms of reparations. We'll have expert testimony possibly come in to give examples of other forms of reparations and precedents in this country and even internationally. And then we can delve really deep into the reparation schema, starting first with compensation formulas. So there are experts out there who have already done this work. You have Professor Thomas Kramer from the University of Connecticut. You have Dr. Darity and his partner, A. Kirsten Mullen, who have come up with their own compensation formulas for reparations. I think you even have Bob Johnson, who was once the founder of BET. Well, he is a founder of BET. He has worked with business leaders to come up with compensation formulas as well. So that could potentially look like engaging them to come and speak, and so we can hear from them about what these compensation formulas could look like. Then meeting 8, September 2022, topic, exploring reparation in the forms of restitution and rehabilitation.
Now, Darvell, you can pause it right there.
One would be
but pretty much same setup. She was going to tell you about day 1, day 2. Now, this was one portion of the discussion that I really enjoyed, because most of the topics that they're going to cover is things that we've talked about on this show. Another thing is, this is the reparationist timeline. You're going to be hard pressed as a Black immigrant to say you went through this whole timeline in America. If you did, you perfectly deserve reparations. Me as a reparationist, I won't, get in your way or disparage your movement. But for us, I would say that this is a good schedule. The key takeaways is that they are bringing in expert testimony. When she brought up the Bob Johnson piece, I don't know how much of an expert he is, but he is a billionaire. So, there will be tons of data display here. I think this, going back to some of our discussions, if states are doing the action of finding the discoveries and having the discussion, then HR 40 becomes a moot point when you realize that the work is already done. The formulas and computations is already listed for the national level. The only thing that's waiting is for the federal government and the president to take action. But this would be specific to California. So other states will have to get involved, that action of discovery. That's what I would love to see from the states. But as far as like truly gaining compensation, I think, we need to look into the federal government for that. But getting all of the data and all of the paperwork in line at a state level would be wonderful. And then at the same time, the state has to address some of the things that they've done. Like in slide 8, she said, Bruce Beach, things like that. Like, will the state of California take action and literally any property that they've taken based on race or bias, would they restore that to the Black family that it's owed to, no matter what white millionaire is living on that property? That's the question. That's the thing that the state can do.
Well, I like that. So think about that. What can the state do that's unique to the state?
Yeah, exactly. Unique to the state and the state's powers. Like that. That's where I see the state coming in for reparations. But what you guys think? That's all I had on this topic. But I did want to just show that again to the viewers. Make sure you check out ETM Media Group and check out some of the clips that they got on this, some of the meetings and hearings.
Well, see, we've talked about that a lot, and that's reparations. That's true restitution. That's not representation, right? To take a property that's developed and say, look, we took this from you illegally. Here it goes. It's back to you. That's reparations. But see, now you got to step on toes. Just like here in Detroit, they took and put 375 through Black Bottom. So reparations is then, because they're talking about filling 375 back in, reparations is giving Black people that land or land, houses, or all that stuff at no taxes, in order to solidify yourself in those communities that were once ours. At the same time, the thing about when she was talking, one of the things I thought was interesting, this could be a great dividing line. if you're black or descendant of African people, and your family, however far back you got to go, weren't made citizens at the signing of the 13th Amendment, you don't qualify for reparations. Is that that may be some weaselly words? So I put it to you: is there a way that you can?
I'll take it. keep
If
going.
you black
I'll take it.
and your family didn't become citizens of the United States at the signing of the 13th or the ratification of the 13th Amendment, you do not get reparations. That doesn't mean you don't get justice. That doesn't mean you don't get a restitution of a kind, but you don't qualify for reparations.
I feel that that's a good definition, man. With leaving there being a waiver for those, but again, it'll be so small percentage. But because it's a small percentage, it shouldn't count. I think those who were here, the very small that was here, maybe like, because again, for me, I think our biggest claim has to be due to redline, what was done in redlining, what was done with Jim Crow, mass incarceration, all of that. To me, I think our hell was from 1865 till now, more so than it was from 1865 to 1619.
They said worse than slavery. After slavery.
Yeah, I think after slavery. In my opinion, the case for reparations is more towards after slavery. So you do have some immigrant communities that, or certain immigrant families, I wouldn't say communities, probably families that can trace coming in here maybe in the 1900s, or even maybe the 1800s forward, the late 1800s forward or whatever.
Yeah.
But I'm sure by default, if they mixed in with Black Americans, then they just,
one of us.
My
dad.
Here's the thing. They would have been on paper recorded as a Negro in 1880s, which would give them all of the clarification to say, I did suffer that timeline.
Right.
That's the thing.
My dad, my parents are 61. And, my parents grew up in Inkster. And they got a friend, my dad's best friend, my mom, good friends with him. And, I just found this out maybe the last 5 years that maybe he has, his family come from the Dominican Republic. But he live in Inkster. I just thought he was black. I mean, he was born here. He don't have no accent or nothing. It ain't like, it's but it's like like a grandparent or not a great grandparent or something. It's from the Dominican Republic or Haiti or something. So, I mean, it's not to say those people don't exist. But what I listened to this guy, he's a lawyer. He does YouTube videos, and he says when you write law not for the exception. You write law
for the rule,
for the majority. And so, I mean, when you think about what you're saying, I agree with you. So 1865, sharecropping, convict leasing, all that. GI Bill. My only thing, like I said, with slavery, it's not that I think slavery is the only thing for restitution, but I look at that as it's like your ticket to get into the club. You know what I'm saying? Everything else that happens once you get inside the club is still what happens, but that's your ticket in. So when was the 13th Amendment signed? Because if we're looking at from 1865, if you had ancestors here from like I said, from when the 13th Amendment was ratified and signed, boom. And I know, I know Mississippi didn't ratify it until 2016. But that, to me, that's just to get into the door. Everything else you're talking about with the GI Bill, with sharecropping, with convict leasing, with redlining, all that stuff still counts, and it adds toward the total. And I agree with you, because when you look at the land grants, how they gave so many immigrants fresh off the boat land in the Midwest and the far Midwest, Oklahoma, Nebraska, Kansas, land to and like Martin Luther King says in that speech on NBC, they built them schools so they could learn to work the land, and gave them grants so they could have the tools to work the land, right? And you gave the Negro, which is us, nothing. And so for me, like I said, my foundation is slavery, because that's what happened. That's what the catalyst, like you said, that's the nexus point. If we didn't have slavery, none of this other stuff would be the issue. And so that's just my opinion about it.
Yeah, that's a good argument because the Asians have been here since the 1800s and they didn't have slavery, but they had some discrimination. It didn't hinder them as much as the effects of slavery and the club that followed that. That's what I'll say.
And that's a nice segue to looking at. It's kind of out of place, but
hey, we was going. You finna
skip it.
No. We was going do a full show on the topic 3 and 4 or 2 and 3 that we didn't get into today.
Okay, that's cool.
Yep.
But I feel like this was a good show. Just I like this. If I host, I mean, this is kind of my problem. I just like the free form thing, bro. I just like we talking, we vibing, everybody talks, and you gotta just get in your element and feel good about. You're
gonna turn the show into a 3-hour vibe.
Hey, we'll be the Joe Rogan experience over here.
Yeah. Joe Budden or something too.
Right, give us our $100 million contract, Spotify. But
you guys, I definitely have a hard stop, man.
Okay.
I have a hard stop. So for me,
go ahead, get the people your spiel before you get out of here, Gerard.
All right, man. So again, I always end guys with, we have no permanent enemies, we have no permanent friends, but we only have permanent interests. So part of that is, getting involved in these local elections because that's the power that's closest to us in a city that's 85% Black. One of the most, Black populated major cities in the country. Okay. We should be able to control our local politicians and the city council and the mayor's offices by way is the way it's done on a local level, right? And this is a very critical election because we could flip, we could actually flip the turn of power in both the mayoral administration as well as the city council. Like I said, represents the legal body or the legislative body of city government. So you all get out there and vote. Please come out on August 3rd, all right, and then subsequently November 2nd. So get on out there. It's very critical things, important things on the ballot. All right, guys, peace.
Appreciate it, Gerard. Peace. Yeah, no, I could go out to Gerard and just state that again, guys. From a local standpoint, make sure you guys are engaging in local politics. Make sure you're learning and reading up on some of these legislations that are being passed, as well as reaching out to your representatives, because at the end of the day, your vote has power. If you don't exercise that power, then it's just free power for the person who got into that position because of your vote, or didn't get in position because of your vote, but because of someone else's. So make sure you guys participate. AB 3121, I want to say the same thing. Make sure you guys participate in that task force's hearings. Look forward to doing something similar in other states and ultimately at the national level. I think you can get some good experience just watching those meetings, and then ultimately asking a question yourself. Ask them something that you're curious about when it comes to reparations, or give a criticism of one of the task force members who's saying something that's off the wall that you totally don't agree with as a Black American. And with that being said, I know we had a few other topics that we wanted to touch on tonight, guys, but we were pressed for time because the conversation was so good. So in the next 2 episodes or so, we'll be covering critical race theory and some interesting things tied to the system, mass incarceration. So I'll leave it there.
Darvell, you want to give your out and then I'll close this out?
Sure. So look, people, as Ernest just said, we got a lot more stuff to cover. There's a lot more that needs to be said, but also while we work through that information, while we work through that education, hopefully for you, please do as Gerard said, get involved in the local elections, make sure you're registered, and also get out there for these primaries. A lot of people are falling through these primaries without any type of opposition. And we got really good candidates that are on the mayoral ballot in the primary that most of them will not make it because you can only get 2 people through. So it is critical that if you like somebody on this August primary ballot, you need to go out and support them in August. You got to do it in this upcoming primary. If they don't make it through, you don't have that option in November. You're going to have to deal with most likely Duggan and whoever else, fights him, whoever else makes it through the primary. You got two options. So, I recommend you make sure your family, your friends, and everybody else makes it out in August. So.
Yeah, and with that, it is important. We got some comments. It is important to remember that the fight for reparations is not about hurt feelings. It's not about racism. It's not about police brutality. It isn't. It's about the system in place that has oppressed those people, who is us, the American Negro, the descendants of chattel slavery, right? That's what this is about. It's restitution. It's not a handout. It's not a giveaway. Your people built this country for free and they weren't paid. And you are eating that no matter where you live in your life, no matter what level you live on in your life today. Where you are is a product of the fact that your ancestors built this country for free and weren't paid. And every time throughout that process from then on, from sharecropping to redlining to convict leasing to Jim Crow, you were locked out of money-making opportunities. You were locked out of the American dream. You were locked out of participation in the American experiment. That's what reparations is for. We are a specific ethnic group. The American Negro is a specific ethnic group. We're not just black people. We are a people who are a mixture of European, of Native American, and various African tribes. That's who we are. We're a group of people who have a very specific justice claim, and we need to understand that, right? That's what we're fighting for. We're not fighting for racial justice. We're fighting for restitution for a wrong or injured party. So we want you to center that thought. We appreciate you sharing this time with us. I know that, I had a little loosey-goosey with time today. That's just kind of how I am. And I hope you like the show. I appreciate you fellas for letting me host. And I hope I didn't do so bad a job you won't let me do it again. Keep up the fight. Continue to fight. Pick up these books. Learn about critical race theory. You can get Derek Bell, the Derek Bell Reader. He's essentially the founder of critical race theory. And then you can get Critical Race Theory, the 3rd edition, from Richard Delgado and Gene Stefanchik. They're both contributing thought leaders in this process of critical race theory. I appreciate you, brothers, for letting me be here. I appreciate everybody in the chat room.
Yep. Peace and reparation.
Yeah, people.